Hello and welcome back everyone, we Weeb online, and today I'm gonna start a new movie, What If Naruto wrote Jiraiya's Icha Paradise. If you enjoy this video, please give it a big thumbs up, and to watch more videos like this, subscribe to my channel and turn that bell notification on so you never miss an upload. Now wasting no more time, let's begin.
It was a very calm and quiet day for Haruno Sakura when, with a practically predatory squeal, Ino exclaimed, "Sakura, I just saw the hottest guy over at the marketplace today," toward her pink-haired friend. Sakura let out a sigh, moved the overly enthusiastic blonde away from her, and cleaned herself up. "And who is it this time?" Ino chuckled sheepishly. "Well, about that, I don't know exactly. I only saw a glimpse of him and then he disappeared into the crowd. You know how crowded the marketplace is on Saturdays." Sakura shrugged and went back to reading her book on the grass. "I guess that's that then," she said. Shaking her fist at the sky like she was defying destiny, Ino exclaimed, "No, I will not let a guy that's sexy fall into some other bitch's lap. I will find this guy even if it's the last thing I do." Sakura rolled her eyes and said, "Didn't you say that about Sasuke-kun and Sai too?" Ino protested, "This is different. I'm done with those dark and creepy emotionless bastards. This guy's different." Sakura was becoming intrigued now. She put down her book and asked quizzically, "He's really that hot?" Ino cried out in exasperation, "Yes, haven't you been listening to a word I've been saying? He is a god?" Sakura shrugged, her fangirl phase long since over. "I dunno. From an objective standpoint, I can't really picture a guy who's prettier than Sasuke-kun," she said. "There's no comparison to this guy," Ino declared. "He has messy blonde hair, but it's not like grungy messy. It's messy in a way that's so completely and utterly sexy, and his eyes are the most striking blue color. Like the sky. And glasses. I never knew a guy with glasses could be so hot. It's not like those emo plastic framed glasses that are so popular nowadays, but thin metal rectangle framed ones that make him look so smart, intelligent and sexy. And his sense of style is to die for." I noticed that Ino paused then, but Sakura sensed something more, and unlike before, when she had been extremely excited, Ino's voice now became softer. His smile. It was like, I don't know. It was warm. So warm that I could feel my heart melt. It's the smile that Sasuke-kun and Sai are missing. Sakura grimaced, searching her memory for the thing about this guy that made him seem so familiar. I kinda feel like I've seen this guy before. You're not talking about Naruto, are you?" Sakura got a conk on the head for that. "Oi, Sakura, got a minute?" Sakura sighed, frustrated that she would have to stop reading her book yet again. "Sure, what is it, Shikamaru?" After giving the back of his neck a quick scratch and glancing up at the clouds, Shikamaru said, "Did you two get into a fight recently or something? Ino's acting really weird." Sakura gave a blink. "She didn't tell you?" With a raised eyebrow, Shikamaru shook his head. "Tell me what?" Sakura scowled as she put down her book. Ino always made sure that everyone knew that she had first dibs on any boy she developed a crush on. It was peculiar that she had withheld it from none other than Shikamaru. "I guess Ino fell in love," Sakura remarked, wrinkled up at the strangeness of her own words. "Fell in love?" Shikamaru asked, scowling and rubbing his chin as he processed the realization. She's not acting like she usually does when she finds a new guy to drape herself all over. She's acting like, I don't know, she sighs a lot. "She? What?" Sakura questioned sharply. Shikamaru said again, "She sighs like every 5 minutes. Like she's depressed or something. And she has that stupid expression on her face while she just stares off at nothing." Sakura nibbled on her lip. It might be serious this time. Shikamaru coughed, trying to hide the faint edge in his voice. "What? Who is it?" Sakura then gave him a naive smile. "Why? Does it bother you?" Shikamaru moaned in a sour tone, troublesome, and turned around to go. Sakura laughed, leaping to her feet and jogging after him, saying, "Shikamaru, I'm just joking, but seriously. I don't think you have much to worry about. Ino doesn't even know who the guy is. She just caught a passing glimpse of him yesterday at the marketplace." "That seems like something that Ino would do," Shikamaru moaned. "That's problematic." Sakura said thoughtfully, "But, from Ino's description, I seriously feel like I've seen that guy around before too. I just can't put my finger on it. He might be a Konoha civilian. Shikamaru huffed. Well, if you can't remember, then he probably isn't all that. Sakura laughed a little, thinking it funny how hard Shikamaru is trying to hide how much he despises every man Ino falls in love with. No, I think I remembered thinking that he was a really attractive guy, but for some reason I can't remember where it was that I saw him. Sarcastically, Shikamaru said, model for an advertisement or commercial? Then Sakura gave a finger snap. Shikamaru, you're a genius. That might be why I can't really remember. I don't really pay attention to ads or commercials. Shikamaru started to perspire. Oh, I was just joking, she said. Wait, he's that attractive? Enough to be in a commercial? Sakura rolled her eyes. It's just a hunch, I don't really remember, but I guess we should go over to the bookstore and check the magazine stand. We might find something. Troublesome. Yo, Ino. When Ino noticed the person she didn't think would enter a flower shop and waltz straight up to the counter, she arched an eyebrow. She had spotted her dream guy at the market the other day, the blonde wearing glasses. Naruto? With some skepticism, Ino examined Naruto's new look. She was still struggling to accept that, in her opinion, the academy dropout was far more attractive than Sasuke could have ever imagined. However, he was there. It was a welcome surprise to see him dressed casually because she had only ever seen him in that crazy orange jumpsuit. Though it was nothing fancy, just a black V-neck t-shirt and loose-fitting khaki cargo pants, it did a far better job of showcasing his toned, muscular body than his typical jumpsuit. Though wearing that heavy orange jacket, Naruto had always appeared fairly slender, so it shouldn't have come as much of a surprise. Still, why hadn't it occurred to her earlier? Additionally to the glasses. Even with his goofy smile, which gave him an air of intelligence, he managed to hold onto the playfulness that defined his identity. However, it also highlighted his kindness, a quality that not many people were aware of. The self-sacrificing smile that instantly warmed her heart was hidden behind the roguishness and mischief that most people were unwilling to see past. His smile made him much more attractive than the two of them put together, not because he was more handsome than Sasuke or more seductive than Sai. He looked around to see if there were any other customers nearby and said, "You're not busy right now, are you?" A little self-consciously adjusting his new glasses, but fortunately the store was mostly empty at the time. Ino deadpanned, not understanding why Sakura was the one who attracted all the guys. "Why? You want to buy a bouquet for Sakura?" it asked. With bewilderment in his fox-slit eyes, Naruto questioned, "Why would I buy a bouquet for Sakura-chan? Did she graduate from medical school or something?" Whether he wore glasses or not, Naruto remained the same naive fool. "I just wanted to ask you some stuff. About flowers, and maybe buy one for my garden." Naturally, Ino was taken aback when she heard, "You have a garden?" With a sigh, Naruto took out the bingo book from Hidden Mist Village, which was a year old, and turned to the page with his profile. Naruto cited, Uzumaki Naruto. Hobbies include cooking and gardening, as he pressed the bingo book against her. "Even the freaking mist ninja know that I like to garden. So why the hell doesn't anybody in Konoha know?" Glancing at Naruto's profile in the bingo book, Ino started to perspire. "Hobbies? The bingo books are starting to look more and more like MySpace pages," she exclaimed. "Wait, the Hidden Mist have a bounty on your head for 50 million Ryu. What the hell did you do to them to make them so angry?" Naruto scratched the back of his head and laughed sheepishly. I kinda blew up a lot of stuff while developing the Udama Rasengan. But that doesn't warrant a 50 million Ryu bounty," Ino continued. Naruto shook his head and said, "No, you don't understand. I blew up a lot of stuff." "Such as?" Ino asked, holding up her hands to let him finish her explanation. Naruto squeaked, "Such as? The Sandaime Mizukage?" After a brief blink, Ino shook her head. I have no words for you, Uzumaki Naruto." In defense of himself, Naruto exclaimed, "Hey, it was an accident. Besides, he was a corrupt tyrant leader. Believe it? I just hope they picked a Yondaime Mizukage who'll take the bounty off my head." Anyway, Ino sighed. "That aside, what is it that you needed?" Naruto opened his equipment pouch and pulled out a small notebook and pen. The pen clicked into readiness. Can you teach me the meaning behind each flower in this store? For a moment, Ino studied his face and saw through the silly smile that was usually plastered on his face. A serious one. Well, I guess. After that, for a few hours, Naruto and Ino talked about every kind of flower that Ino knew about. Every now and then, customers would drop in, and Naruto would assist them too, before they would return to their flower lesson. Naruto seemed very interested and attentive, which surprised Ino. She reasoned that Naruto might be the kind who, when he puts in the effort, gets things done, but otherwise does nothing at all. And I think that's about it for the flowers that our store carries, Ino said, bringing her lesson to a close. Naruto smiled and turned through the seemingly endless pages of notes he had taken. Awesome, he said, and I guess I'll buy some asters for now, but I might come back for some other stuff some other day. Asters? Ino asked, glancing over to the area where the lovely purple flowers were on exhibit. What for? Naruto checked that he remembered the information about asters by turning to the relevant page in his notebook. You do realize that their scent keeps snakes away? He asked in jest. At that point, Ino laughed as she realized what Naruto was trying to say. Which one do you want? He said, This one's nice, as he picked up a medium-sized aster pot. How much? Free, Ino gave a shrug. Friendship discount. Really? Naruto asked, chuckling as he closed his wallet. As the sun began to set, he said, I'll treat you to dinner then. You're about to close up shop, right? Astonished by the late hour, Ino looked at the wall clock. Oh, yeah. I guess I should close up shop now. I'll be here waiting for you, Naruto said with joy. After giving a nod, Ino swiftly completed the customary closing rituals she had practiced for countless times before locking up. You know, you don't really have to take me out to dinner. And, Naruto smiled, echoing her voice, you didn't have to give me these flowers for free. With a laugh, right, Ino repositioned her purse over her shoulder. Have anywhere in mind? Naruto led the way, grinning proudly. You want to try one of the restaurants that use vegetables from my garden? Oh, so you grow veggies? Ino asked, understandingly nodding. No wonder you didn't know much about flowers. Veggies. Among other things, Naruto shrugged and nodded. Curious, she said, so where's this restaurant that uses your vegetables? Naruto used his 2 fingers to give her the victory sign. Ichiraku Ramen. For the same reason, Ino was not sure whether to laugh or sigh at how predictable that response was. She chose the latter. No wonder you get so many discounts there. Well, I do give old man Tucci the vegetables for free, so it's only fair, Naruto chuckled. Have you tried his special vegetarian ramen? It's specially made from the best ingredients, he exclaimed with pride. I suppose I'll give that a shot then, Ino grinned. But, wouldn't you rather have dinner with Sakura? Then Naruto gave her the most agonized smile she had ever seen, one that made her heart feel as though all the life was being gradually sucked out of it. She had no idea something so poignant could also be so exquisite. The closer I get to Sakura-chan, the harder it'll be to keep my promise to her. Naruto. Sakura returned yet another magazine to the rack, sighing. She stated, no one that fits the description in this one either, as she grew weary of turning pages of magazine after magazine to see the models in the ads. Maybe he was on a billboard or something. I don't think so. Since I would have most likely seen it too, Shikamaru said, continuing to page through magazines. Sakura shrugged and whispered, I guess, giving up on finding ads and turning to an intriguing article. It was a discussion guide regarding the book she was reading at the time. Then it dawned on her. I got it. Shikamaru was so startled that he nearly dropped the magazine he was holding. What? Not wanting to take out her own copy of the book in the middle of a bookstore for fear of being accused of stealing, Sakura grabbed Shikamaru and dragged him over to the new release popular fiction section. The guy Ino was talking about, Sakura exclaimed. Taking one of the many copies of the book off the shelf and opening it to the About the Author section, Sakura exclaimed triumphantly, he's the author of this book. That's why he seems so familiar. Shikamaru studied the author's blurry black and white photo, his brow furrowed. Are you sure this is the guy? Kinda hard to tell in this picture. True. I must have seen a better picture of him somewhere else, but I'm sure that this is the guy, Sakura sighed. And at least we know his name now. Namikaze Tsukasa. Shikamaru muttered, skimming the author's description, finding nothing of note, just his name and not much else though. Yo, Sakura, Shikamaru. Sakura spun around and heard the voice of her old instructor. Kakashi-sensei. What are you doing here? I decided to pick up Namikaze Tsukasa's debut book, Doki Doki Fantasy, since I just finished Jiraiya-sama's latest book, Icha Icha Panic, Kakashi said with a smile as he took a copy of the book off the shelf. Sakura exclaimed, happy that Kakashi was finally reading a book they could talk about together. Ooh, Doki Doki Fantasy is really interesting, Kakashi-sensei. I just started reading it yesterday too. Kakashi read the synopsis on the back of the book and nodded. Is that so? Next, he glanced over the about the author section as well. I'm still kind of disappointed that Jiraiya-sama didn't write this book himself though. With confusion, Sakura said, Jiraiya-sama? What does he have to do with anything? Kakashi furrowed his brow. You didn't know? Kakashi asked, taking out his copy of Icha Icha Panic. Sakura gasped upon seeing who was featured on the book's cover. Taking the book from Kakashi's grasp, Sakura exclaimed, that's him. That's where I've seen him before. Namikaze Tsukasa. Shikamaru scowled as she examined the book Icha Icha Panic's cover. In an attempt to reach a wider readership than its predecessors, Icha Icha Panic featured considerably more intricate cover art. The heroine and her two love interests were positioned in a seductive and provocative ménage à trios on the cover, representing the three main characters of the story. Namikaze Tsukasa, the scandalously beautiful, was the one on the left. That's him all right. Icha Icha Panic features Namikaze Tsukasa as a character, Kakashi said, gesturing to the two books. In Icha Icha Panic, the character Namikaze Tsukasa is an aspiring author who works on writing Doki Doki Fantasy. Thus Doki Doki Fantasy is sort of a story within a story. Shikamaru speculated, wait. So Namikaze Tsukasa is not the author's real name? He's just using it as a pen name to tie in with Icha Icha Panic? That's right, Kakashi smiled. He chuckled to himself in silence. He is Jiraiya-sama's editor and assistant. Though no one knows his real name. Even though Namikaze Tsukasa's true identity is fairly clear. How long before Sakura realizes that, I wonder? Sakura exclaimed, so. Then we can ask Jiraiya-sama to introduce us to him, in her conclusion. Kakashi laughed. Why? You find him attractive? You're just going to make Naruto jealous all over again. At that point Sakura flushed. She thought Namikaze Tsukasa was very handsome, but not handsome enough to get into another argument with her best friend. She pleaded, no, not for me, for Ino. But her blushing made her justification seem implausible. Whatever you say, Sakura, Kakashi chuckled. Now, if you two will excuse me, I have a book I need to start reading. Sakura bid farewell to Kakashi-sensei as she watched him head to the counter to pay for the book. I guess I'll buy Ino a copy too. As he took a copy off the shelf, Shikamaru sighed, it's troublesome, but... Sakura laughed and looked in her wallet to see how much money was there. Ino's gonna flip. It never occurred to Ino that she would say those words to Naruto of all people. Thanks for dinner, Naruto. And for walking me all the way home, she giggled. Naruto shrugged and smiled, turning to go. It was a free meal, so no need to thank me, he said. Well, maybe I'll see you around. She called out, startling both herself and him. Hey, Naruto. Good luck with Forehead Girl. Sasuke-kun doesn't deserve someone as nice as her. Laughing, Naruto reached up and gently brushed away the strands of hair cascading down Ino's right cheek. He chuckled and gave her a silly smile, staring into her turquoise eyes. Don't go commenting on other girls' foreheads when you hide your own, he said. Naruto's goofy expression and clever laughter completely ruined the romantic line, and you have really pretty eyes. And a really cute face. So show it off confidently. But even with all that, Ino was still so confused that she was unable to express herself. Stunned, Ino could do nothing but stare at Naruto's back as he turned around once more to say goodbye. His smile. He smiled and called back, and thanks, for not ever mentioning my glasses. Observe, Sakura. This is how much cuter you are. I'll give that ribbon to you. Thank you very much, however, what? My forehead. The more you try to hide it, the more they make fun of you, Show off your adorable face with confidence, with assurance. Ino-chan. That evening, Ino took a seat in front of the vanity mirror and gave herself a long, hard look. She made every effort, but she was unable to shake the image of Naruto grinning. She had experienced the same kind of heart-melting feeling from Naruto's smile as she had from the guy she had fallen in love with right away at the marketplace. She could now be certain that the two were one and the same. She had had so much fun with Naruto during dinner and on her walk home. He was hilarious and a total goofball, but it wasn't romantic at all. She laughed every time he did. And she'd had very little laughter in her life, particularly since Asuma's passing. His laugh and his smile. She wasn't prepared for how much she wanted them, to retain them for herself. With a sigh, she grabbed a few hairpins and combed her hair to the side, exposing the side of her face that she had been hiding for a while, her right side. She then grinned. I am cute, aren't I? Ino. You won't believe what I found out. With great excitement, Sakura opened the door to the Yamanaka flower shop, but as soon as she entered, she froze. With a trembling finger, Sakura stumbled. Ino. What happened to your hair? Oh, this. Ino shrugged, making an effort to look as indifferent as possible. I guess I just felt like a change. Now, Ino's hair was trimmed to the same short length as Sakura's, and instead of pulling it back into her trademark ponytail, she had let it hang loose in the back. Green hairpins held the front of her hair in place. She was wearing her hair in the same way that she had when she and Sakura first met, but now she seemed very mature and beautiful rather than cutesy. She smiled softly and said, we went full circle, didn't we? Sakura smiled back, taking her time to recover from the shock and running her fingers through Ino's new hairstyle. We both started with short hair. Then grew our hair longer because of Sasuke-kun. And now we've both returned to the same hairstyles we had way back then, but why all of a sudden? Once more, Ino shrugged her shoulders. I don't know, just felt like it. Sakura jeered playfully, jabbing Ino in the side. No, come on, tell me. She then gasped. No way. You met that guy, didn't you? Does he like girls with short hair? With a smile, Ino shrugged slyly at her. I just remembered. Back when we first met, I told you not to hide your face because it was cute, but I've realized that over the years, I've started to do the exact thing I told you not to do. I just suddenly felt like a hypocrite, that's all. Ino gave Sakura a smile. You look way cuter this way. You'll totally knock Namikaze-san off his feet when you meet him. Namikaze-san? Sakura burst into her overly excited girly mode again. Yeah, the guy you saw at the marketplace the other day. Sakura was really feeling it because it had been a while since she and Ino had been able to do things that normal teenage girls would do. He's the author of this book, Doki Doki Fantasy. He goes by the pen name Namikaze Tsukasa, but he's Jiraiya-sama's assistant, so I'm sure he'll introduce you to him. Namikaze Tsukasa? Ino asked, her heart pounding as she gazed at the grainy black and white photo in the book's author section. Oh wait. So the person I saw at the marketplace wasn't Naruto? Sakura, who was blushing, said, here's a better picture, pulling out a copy of the Icha Panic, which was exclusive to those over 18. You can have both of those, I have my own copies. After studying the cover of Icha Panic, Ino's eyes suddenly flashed back to the previous night, when Naruto's smile appeared. Sakura, are you blind? Surprised, Sakura blinked. What do you mean? This man. Jiraiya-sama's helper. Namikaze Tsukasa, Ino muttered. It's Naruto. Sakura gasped as she took another glance at the book's cover. How could she have missed it the first time? It's true that Namikaze Tsukasa didn't resemble Naruto at first glance. He didn't have a forehead protector on, his hair was styled, he wore spectacles, and he was dressed in extremely stylish clothing. However, beneath all of that, his smile remained unwavering. Naruto. So I guess I did have dinner with my dream guy last night after all, Ino said with a grin. And he told me not to hide my pretty face behind my hair. Sakura's shocked words, you. What? Came out as hardly a whisper, almost quivering. Ino laughed quietly, amused. We both grew our hair long because of Sasuke-kun. Then we both cut our hair short again because of Naruto. Ironic, isn't it? Because of Naruto. Sakura stammered, unable to form a meaningful answer. Then Ino smiled sadly at her. I'm still not sure of how I feel about Naruto yet, but I don't want what happened between us all those years ago to repeat again. If you want Naruto, say it now and save me a lot of trouble, okay? I. Sakura still couldn't stop talking in shock. With a smile, Ino firmly put her hands on Sakura's shoulders. Both you and me. We're both confused. We're both unsure of our feelings. That's fair, right? So, let's at least promise not to let this get in the way of our friendship, okay? Sakura bit her lip nervously and hung her head for a while. At last, she gave a nod. Okay. Naruto lamented, "Nay, Ero Sennin. You haven't trained me at all." Right before Jiraiya set out on yet another research expedition. This is just like last time. You demonstrate the technique to me, but you don't teach me anything. I always have to figure everything out myself. Jiraiya scoffed and marched straight into town. Che, isn't that what a great ninja is supposed to do? Figure everything out by himself? Jiraiya asked. Naruto complained, "Grr, I don't think I can handle this for another 2 years," recalling their training journey's schedule for the following few years. He had an idea all of a sudden. He smiled and took out a copy of Icha Paradise, the best-selling book, from one of Jiraiya's travel packs. If that's the case, I'll do a little bit of my own research, he said. I'll beat him at his own game. In 2 years, I'll become a better ninja than him and I'll outsell his books with my own. Naruto, with a cackle so evil it would make Orochimaru proud, set out to study the art of writing by dissecting Icha Paradise, the only source and example he could find. Sakura used the wall as support for her back as she sat on her bed that evening, fixating intently on the cover of Icha Panic. The longer she looked at it, the more she found it hard to accept that Ino had recognized Naruto before she had. It was supposed to be her, not Ino, who was close friends with Naruto. That same day, Ino had made a declaration that still had her in shock. The idea that any girl would actively pursue Naruto was just so absurd. Naruto had only ever shown total devotion to Haruno Sakura throughout her entire life. No other girl, aside from Hinata, who would never pursue him anyhow, had ever shown any interest in him. Had she started to become reliant on him? Had she started to believe that he would be hers and hers alone for eternity? Because she knew that Naruto would always be there, it was very simple to slip into the self-serving mindset that he was her fallback if she ever failed to find another suitable boyfriend or husband. It was very simple to think that way, even though she knew it was extremely selfish and unfair to Naruto. When did the boy who was your constant supporter turn into the fallback? Isn't it supposed to be the other way around? When had she started thinking in such a selfish manner? Then, still not believing that Naruto was the author, she reached over for the book that had captured her attention so completely for the previous few days. When did you become so mature? Without my knowledge. A girl traveling by train is the basic plot of Naruto's book Doki Doki Fantasy, but the reader is left feeling horribly alone by the depth of emotion Naruto is able to capture in his words. The world of the novel was made up of tracks, stations, and one very long train in an imaginary setting. There was literally only one train in the world, carrying 1,000,000 passenger cars, one for every 1,000,000 people on the planet. Time started at that moment when the train left the first station and each person set out on their own, living alone in a tiny passenger car. However, loneliness was feared by many. People got out of their own passenger car and mingled with occupants of other cars as the train stopped at successive stations. With time, the train stopped at each station, and as people started to congregate in fewer vehicles, an increasing number of passenger cars were left empty. With the exception of one girl. Asuka, the primary character, was extremely shy and began the story alone in a passenger car. Her left eye was a vibrant azure blue, while the other was pitch black, so each time she timidly extended her hand to ask someone for friendship, they would tease her for having strange eyes. The majority of the book's first section focused on Asuka's personality, experiences, and ideas. It was a metaphysical philosophy that was abstract and addressed loneliness, friendship, and love. It was a frighteningly lonely poem, almost like an epic poem instead of a novel. It was like being in her lonely childhood all over again, only with the dark anguish amplified by a factor of 100. After crying a lot during part 1 of the book, Sakura was ecstatic for Asuka when she started reading part 2, which saw the novel switch to a more conventional storytelling style as Asuka made her first friend. Rei was a pretty boy with a dark and arrogant demeanor who was Asuka's first friend, if one could even call him that. Rei had been seriously hurt and had taken refuge in Asuka's almost empty passenger car by accident while she healed. Asuka attended to the wounds of the distant and frigid boy, gladly welcoming the company. The majority of the second part of the book focused on Asuka's gradually developing feelings for the boy and their exchanges during the weeks it took for him to fully recover. A shy girl attempting to win the affections of an uninterested boy was the subject of this heartbreaking love tale. But just when it looked like Asuka was making progress, and just when Rei had started to show her his feelings, his wounds had healed and he was prepared to carry out his mission. Rei's injuries were actually sustained during a fight with some thugs after they stole something valuable from him and threw it out the train window. Therefore, in defiance of Asuka's entreaties, Rei disembarked at the next station and ventured into the unknown to find his priceless item. When Sakura realized what Naruto had done, her hands began to weaken and she lost control of the book, causing it to fall onto her lap. "I'm Asuka, and Rei is Sasuke-kun." The book had fallen out of her hands and opened to reveal the dedication page on the front. When Sakura saw what was written on that page, her eyes widened in shock and a wave of emotion overcame her. "I dedicate this book to Uchiha Sasuke. Wherever he is, I hope he reads this book and decides to return home. Sasuke, you bastard, you have everyone waiting for you. Naruto." She cried, trying to stop herself from crying, but the page was already getting wet. After coming to a realization, she continued after gathering herself. Rei was meant to represent Sasuke and Asuka was meant to represent her, but in all of this, where was Naruto? She read on to part 3 of the novel because she had to know. The events following Rei's departure from Asuka marked the start of part 3. Asuka was afraid, but she really wanted to follow Rei after he got off the train so she wouldn't have to lose her one and only friend to the outside world. For her, that train was the world. At every station the train stopped, there was a great fear among all the passengers that they would be left behind. Nobody was aware of the nature of the outside world. It was completely dark outside the train windows. Rather, she embarked on a quest to reach the conductor at the front of the train. The conductor could definitely help her, maybe even turning the train around so she could look for Rei. To the passengers on the trains, the conductor was God. He was a conductor they had never seen or heard of before, and he had total control over the course of their lives. However, she was unsure of her exact distance from the train's front. She had no way of knowing, but she knew she had no choice but to pass through 900,000 more passenger cars. Or, on the other hand, she might only have 9 more. To find Rei, she had to go look for the conductor. The book's third section described her experiences during the lengthy train ride, including the people she met, the things she learned, and the strength she gained from each encounter. Then, at last, she succeeded. But to her surprise, the conductor, Shinji, was a boy her age, and he had a smile that was both joyful and incredibly poignant. He resembled her exactly. He had been alone the entire time the train was traveling. The only thing keeping him company being the heavy responsibility of guiding a million ungrateful strangers through the darkness of the world. He had never seen anyone else but Asuka, and he fell in love with her right away. But rather than expressing his affections for her, he smiled, his expression both joyful and poignant, and said, "I'll find him for you." That's a promise of a lifetime. Sakura could feel her already broken heart break into tiny, irreversible pieces at those words. After his latest research trip, Jiraiya asked Naruto, "Evening, have you completed the task that I gave you this morning?" When he finally returned. That silly, perverted smile was still on his face. "Yeah," Naruto said inanely, forming a one-handed Rasengan without even looking up from his book. Jiraiya exclaimed, not sure if he was more proud that Naruto had managed to perform a one-handed Rasengan or that he was finally reading the best-selling book. "Oh ho, I see that you finally realized the awesomeness that is Icha Paradise." Given that he had already created the one-handed Rasengan during his battle with Sasuke at the waterfall, Naruto hadn't had too much difficulty creating it this time. He had plenty of time to continue reading his research materials after that. Yeah, whatever. "So, how far along are you in the book?" Jiraiya asked with excitement. The moment when Riza acknowledges her love for Mikoto, Naruto retorted. Surprisingly, given the kind of research Jiraiya does, the book hasn't yet featured any explicit scenes, unlike what he may have thought. Really, it was just a beautifully written romance novel. Aha! You're getting to the juicy part. Naruto let out a sigh. Alright, so perhaps he wasn't correct when he said that the book didn't contain anything filthy. He hadn't reached that point yet. He rolled his eyes and said, the book would be just fine without any juicy parts. Open Tsukubi, open pervert. Jiraiya shot back, a kid like you wouldn't understand the beauty of such a love scene. I shall adjudicate that, retorted Naruto. Jiraiya merely sighed. Naruto abruptly said, nay, Ero Sennin, let me write the next installment in the Icha series. What? No way, I'm not going to let a kid like you taint my prized book series, Jiraiya gasped. With a tight fist, Naruto leapt to his feet and exclaimed, hey, I bet I could write better than you. Do you even know who you're talking to? I'm the #1 best-selling author in all of Fire Country, Jiraiya roared. Well, I'm the future #1 ninja in all of the world, Naruto replied. The Hokage must have many skills other than just ninjutsu, right? So let me write the stupid book. With a sigh of frustration, Jiraiya rubbed his temples as the effects of all the sake he had eaten that day began to take hold. Fine, but you have to prove to me that you can write first. Then maybe I'll allow you to write an Icha side story or something, nothing canon though. Alright. You'll see, Ero Sennin. I'll be the greatest ninja and the greatest author. Since Sakura hadn't seen Naruto in a while, she made the decision to stop by his place the following day on her way home from her job at the hospital. Indeed, it had been almost a month since she'd seen him last. He was too preoccupied with missions, and she was too preoccupied with her job at the hospital. When she knocked on his apartment door, she heard footsteps approaching to let her in. Opening the door, Naruto exclaimed, oh, Sakura-chan. What brings you here? With a look of surprise. A hint of drool threatened to spill from Sakura's lips as she blinked, unable to stop staring. Naruto had on his spectacles. Never before, not even for Sasuke back when they'd been on Team 7 together, had she felt the need to just jump on a boy and rip off all of his clothes. Oh. These, Naruto scowled, adjusting his glasses and wrinkled his nose in frustration. Come on in. It was only now that she realized Naruto had also matured as a person. She had always known that he had improved as a ninja and what a fine ninja he had become. He was no longer 13 years old. He was no longer the ridiculed ugly duckling in the group. Then she saw something else that was even more noticeable than his glasses. His right wrist was heavily cuffed with an iron handcuff. What was odd, though, was that the chain hung loosely from the handcuff rather than being fastened to anything specific. What's that? Oh, this? Naruto asked after pausing briefly and laughing shyly. Funny thing. On my last mission, after I arrested the guy we were after, I lost the key, so I ended up having to cut the chain once we got back to Konoha. Sakura shook her head and let out a sigh. Seems like something you'd do. Naruto insisted. Hey, it was an honest mistake. She finally said, anyway, since when did you start wearing glasses? As he was pouring her a cup of tea. He laughed, knowing that Sakura had already learned about his book. Sometime during the 2.5-year training trip with Ero Sennin, he said. I used to only wear them when I read or write, but recently my eyesight has been getting worse. All Sakura could say was, oh. He smiled sheepishly and said, so, how'd you like it? Sakura hung her head. I haven't finished yet. Ah. I see, Naruto said, understanding. After all, the book had just been published a few days ago. I'm actually already starting on my next novel. Ino's helping me out with it. Ino. The mention of that name made Sakura, for some reason, almost leap out of her seat with fear and jealousy. She's helping you? He laughed and gestured to the pot of asters that was positioned in the middle of the dining table, saying, well, she doesn't know that she's helping me. The theme of my last book was trains. The next book will have a flower motif, so I asked her to teach me about flowers. Like Ero Sennin, I do my research, you know. Oh, I see, she said, chuckling. Ino had been spending a lot of time with Naruto for that reason. He sighed and apologized, sorry for using you as the main character, placing a plate of daifuku mochi with her tea in front of her. He was aware of her love for candy. I figured. Maybe Sasuke might come home on his own after reading my book. Sakura just shook her head and took a bite out of a mochi, enjoying the texture and taste. Using her distorted reflection in her iced barley tea as a shield, she fixed her intense gaze on it. Sasuke remained a sensitive topic. "You know, I think Ino likes you," she blurted out in an attempt to shift the conversation. He laughed a little. "Are you crazy? I'm not pretty enough to attract her attention." A copy of Icha Panic that was lying around was thrown straight at Sakura's forehead as he arched an eyebrow. "It's because she saw you like this that she's interested," she said. She simply was. She had no idea why she was feeling so furious right now. When Naruto was around, she never needed an excuse. She could never control her feelings when she was around him. Ow. Naruto rubbed the painful area on his forehead where the book had struck him, wincing. With a frown, she said, "Why don't you dress like that more often? You'd attract way more girls that way, like Ino." Confused, Naruto said, "Sakura-chan, are you mad about something?" She scowled and crossed her arms over her chest, disdainfully saying, "I am not mad." With a sigh, Naruto looked down at Jiraiya's most recent book cover. "Are you mad? Because I'm spending my time writing books instead of training and getting stronger in order to get Sasuke back. I haven't forgotten my promise. I'll get him back for you." 3 years of shame, pain, loneliness, and guilt rained down on Sakura's already broken heart, leaving her stunned and utterly speechless. Thus, she took the only action that occurred to her. Idiot. She bolted. After reading the product of Naruto's 2 weeks of labor, Jiraiya angrily reprimanded, "You idiot. This is no good. No good at all." "What? Why?" griped Naruto. "It's a great short story." Jiraiya angrily ripped apart Naruto's labor of love, saying, "It's too immature. It's worse than the worst Icha Paradise fanfiction that I've ever read. See here. The main character has no flaws. So what if he's a great ninja, the greatest ninja? That doesn't make him a superhuman god with no flaws. This story sounds like some kind of raving anime fanboy wrote it." HMPH, Naruto uttered while crossing his arms over his chest. Read Icha Paradise again and focus on the main characters. For example, Makoto on the surface sounds like Mr. Perfect, always optimistic and humorous, but if you delve deeper you can see how lonely, selfish, and cold he is even towards his friends, Jiraiya said. "These characters are human, Naruto. You have to keep that in mind." Naruto was unable to refute that. He had liked Makoto, the main character, a lot when he had first started reading Icha Paradise, but as the story went on, more and more of his personality was revealed, and he found himself growing increasingly irritated with him. By the end of the tale, Makoto had fully atoned for his sins. Jiraiya put his hand over his heart and continued, "You gotta write with your heart, underneath the underneath. You gotta pour your emotions out into your characters to give them life." "Under the underneath?" Naruto inquired, recalling that Kakashi had uttered a similar phrase previously. "Or writing a ninjutsu that's similar?" "Perhaps write a short story again," Jiraiya sighed. Naruto ferociously declared, "My next story is going to blow your mind, you'll see." "Oi, Ino." "Shikamaru, what a surprise," Ino said, a little too soon after her teammate with the pineapple hair entered the flower shop. Shikamaru deadpanned, "You know, Naruto's the guy you've been lovesick for," setting his copy of Naruto's book down on the counter. Being the genius that he is, Shikamaru was able to figure out Namikaze Tsukasa's true identity rather quickly. "It's true," Ino shrugged and nodded happily. "You. What?" Shikamaru staggered back a few paces in shock. When he finally noticed her new hairstyle, he took a few more steps backwards in shock before falling and sprawling after tripping over a potted tree. "You like?" Ino inquired, joyfully observing Shikamaru's response to her metamorphosis. "Naruto hasn't seen it yet, but I'm sure it'll knock him off his feet." Shikamaru complained, "It sure knocked me off my feet," as he picked himself up. "But you finished his book, right? Considering the ending, you really don't have a chance." For the 4th time in less than 4 minutes, Ino startled Shikamaru by responding, "I know," with a slight smile. "I know he loves Sakura. But, in the off chance that she doesn't love him back, I'll be there for him." With a sigh, Shikamaru reached for his lighter in his pocket, but stopped when he realized where he was. He shook his head, said, "I need a smoke," and turned to walk away. "And, oh yeah, by the way, Naruto and I are leaving first thing tomorrow morning on a mission to Suna for a couple days. After Naruto's second attempt at writing fiction, Jiraiya smiled proudly, saying, "Now this is Icha material. It rivals Icha violence in the angst department, Icha tactics in wit, and Icha paradise in passion." Naruto asked, "What the hell are Icha tactics and violence?" as he had never heard of them. Jiraiya clarified, "They are still work in progress, unreleased," before shifting the topic back to Naruto's creative output. "However, there are still too many fatal flaws in your story." Naruto's mouth fell. "What? Still?" Jiraiya angrily pointed at him and said, "You have the grammar of a 10-year-old. The plot outline is wonderful, you have a creative mind there in your head, but your horrid grammar ruins the story and prevents the audience from basking in the enjoyment of reading." Naruto whimpered, "Can't you just edit it for me then?" "No. That brings me to the other flaw. Your writing has no style. An editor may be able to fix your grammar, but he can't add flair. Your plot is great, but that's it, everything else is horrid." Jiraiya was lecturing. "You still have a long way to go before you become a great writer." Naruto was astounded. He had worked on the plot for ages, telling himself repeatedly that it needed to be mature. In fact, he had discarded half a dozen plot ideas before he was happy with the degree of development the story had reached. He had shed a few tears as a result of the struggles he was forcing his protagonist to endure. It was a love story, an angst-filled love story that only a boy who had spent his entire life being rejected and despised by others could have written. The plot was excellent, but was that still insufficient? He was still shocked that his masterpiece was receiving so much criticism, and all he could manage to say was, "Why?" Jiraiya let out a sigh and gestured for Naruto to approach and pay attention. "Here, kid, I'll give you another piece of advice. It's not enough that you tell your story, you gotta tell your story, get it?" Face blanked for Naruto. "That is the worst piece of advice that I've ever heard." "Look here," Jiraiya said, drawing a circle in the ground with a nearby twig. "That's your story, all 100% of it. That 100% is all in your head. It's all great and dandy, but once you get it down on paper, maybe only 50 to 75% of the original story actually makes it down there. And when the reader reads the story, they'll probably only get about 50% of even that. Get it?" Naruto comprehended somewhat. As an example, he read the academy textbooks cover to cover, but only about 5% of what he read was likely retained in his memory. This is because you as a writer, when you read your own story, that story is already all in your head, so as you read, you unconsciously fill in all the gaps, all the plot holes, but your reader doesn't have that convenience, does she? Jiraiya clarified. To make up for that, you gotta put that missing percentage of the story that the reader doesn't get the first time through by using stylistic writing that subtly impacts their emotions. "Gee, you're better at teaching creative writing than ninjutsu," Naruto grumbled. "Shut up," Jiraiya angrily said. "This time, stick with the same plot outline, but revise the grammar and writing style." "Alright," moaned Naruto, taking back his scroll. Returning to his corner of the hotel room, he began to reread his own writing. Before long, he became so engrossed in his work that he failed to notice Jiraiya nodding off and beginning to snore. The following 2 years were spent in this process. When Jiraiya would verbally tear apart Naruto's most recent draft, the latter would write whenever he wasn't training. Nevertheless, Naruto never gave up, and the criticism became less severe with each draft. Before beginning her shift at the hospital the following morning, Sakura went looking for Naruto to give her an apology for her outburst the day before. But she was unable to locate him. He wasn't even at Ichiraku's or his house. Sakura worriedly inquired as she arrived at the hospital for work, "Tsunade-sama, did Naruto go out on a mission today?" Tsunade absently answered, "Yeah, he'll be out for a few days," as she leafed through some medical records. "Don't worry though. It's just a simple escort mission to the Sand Village." Sakura scowled. "Escort mission? To the Sand Village? Isn't that a C-rank mission? There's no way Naruto would accept something like that without a fight." Tsunade blinked, raising her gaze from the documents she had been perusing. She said, "Well, I guess he wanted to see the case cage." Sakura scowled, still a little uncertain. "Oh, that makes sense, but..." Tsunade placed a reassuring hand on Sakura's shoulder and grinned a little. "He's not a kid anymore. He can take care of himself, she said. Sakura sighed and nodded. Yeah, you're right. I guess I'll go start my rounds for today then. Then Tsunade laughed while observing Sakura perform her tasks. As innocent as ever. Naruto smiled and asked, mind if I bum a smoke off you? As he took a seat next to Shikamaru. Shikamaru was smoking after dinner and gazing up at the clouds rolling across the brilliant full moon as their caravan came to a stop and made camp for the night. Since when did you smoke? Shikamaru asked, scowling, holding up a light and a cigarette. It was unsettling enough that the glasses were there, but smoking. Naruto laughed and said, don't get the wrong idea or anything. He held the cigarette between his lips and took a small puff while lighting the other end. I'm not a regular smoker or anything, just once in a while. Shikamaru was too indolent to even formulate the words, Shikamaru was staring at another black cloud that Naruto had created by tilting his head up and letting the smoke from the cigarette sit in his lungs for a short while. However, he said nothing more, which irritated Shikamaru a little. Naruto only ever spoke when you didn't want him to. He never spoke when you wanted him to. At last, his curiosity overcame him. Under that same drowsy expression, Shikamaru asked, so why'd you pick it up? You're not stressed out right now, are you? Naruto let out a small laugh. Nah, I don't smoke when I'm stressed out. Shikamaru muttered, yeah, you seemed pretty energetic today, even for you. Then you smoke when you're in a good mood. Then you'd be smoking all the time, wouldn't you? That also made Naruto laugh. After that, there was a brief silence during which they both just gazed up at the clouds that were partially obscuring the moon. Nah, nothing like that. Asuma-sensei smoked too, didn't he? With a laugh, Shikamaru said, yeah, Ino used to always complain about secondhand smoke, and pulled out another cigarette. She may come off as a party girl, but she's totally clean. She really hates that stuff. Alcohol, cigarettes, drugs. Still gazing up at the moon, Naruto asked absent-mindedly, was she mad? When you started smoking? With a sigh, Shikamaru said, no, she wasn't actually, as he watched the smoldering tip devour the wrapping. When Asuma-sensei passed away, Ino stuck with me for a while. When I smoked, the smell reminded her of him, so she never said anything, never nagged at me to quit like she did with Asuma-sensei. Even now, when she really misses him, she asks me to light one for her. While he listened, Naruto simply nodded, occasionally taking a drag to preserve his cigarette. You know, after the sound invasion, you know, when the shit pretty much hit the fan, Ino grew up and matured a lot. I think she felt that she could have done more to defend the village. That if she had been stronger, less people would have died. In the years that you've been gone, she's become a completely unselfish person, always placing the village's and other people's needs before hers. She even went as far as becoming Hokage-sama's second apprentice in order to learn medical ninjutsu. That time, when she asked me to smoke so that she could reminisce about Asuma-sensei, that was the first time in 3 years that she showed me her selfish side. Naruto merely grinned, and I think, that's when I finally understood what my dad meant when he said that mom was selfish, but he loved her anyway. It was weird when Ino wasn't acting selfish anymore. It was like, she was hiding her hardships from us, hiding a part of her from us, like she wouldn't let us in, she was more distant that way. Still gazing up at the moon, Naruto said, and when she asked you to smoke, with that one selfish request, she finally let you in. He then extinguished another cloud of smoke and finally burned out of his cigarette. It's a lonely feeling, when friends become overly polite and unselfish. Shikamaru nodded idly and offered another cigarette, to which Naruto simply shook his head. Yeah, she thought she was being unselfish by hiding her hardships from us, so that she wouldn't burden us with her problems, but, really, it only distanced her from us, Shikamaru said. Naruto then questioned, his expression immature and childlike as he asked, you like her? Shikamaru laughed heartily at that. I don't know, maybe I do. Naruto said, yeah, you do, snagging Shikamaru in a lighthearted headlock. With a smile, he said, you should cut back for her sake, and took the cigarette Shikamaru was holding between his lips to light up. You'll just make her miss him more if you keep smoking. Shikamaru said, So what about you? After pausing briefly, Naruto resumed his seemingly introspective stare at the moon. When he finally stood up, he cleaned himself up and crushed the last of the cigarette under his sandals. Guys always seem to open up more when sharing a smoke, huh? Shikamaru then sighed and chuckled a little, realizing that he had unintentionally spilled a fairly lengthy and intimate story on Naruto. Is that why you smoke? With a simple smile, Naruto let out a drowsy yawn and extended his arms. I'm sleepy, I'll see you in the morning. Naruto, yeah, if you don't let Sakura in, you're going to make her sad, Shikamaru said sloppily. Without looking back, Naruto waved back and said, I don't hide my problems from Sakura-chan. I'm too selfish to do something like that, before returning to his sleeping bag. With a sigh, Shikamaru shook his head. Bullshit. Sakura debated whether to keep reading Naruto's book that evening as she fixed her intense gaze on it. She hadn't left off for a long time. Because she was so afraid of how the book would end, she had been avoiding it. She was aware that Naruto was still fully committed to bringing Sasuke back, but she wasn't so sure why. Was he still doing it for her, or for himself? Or was he just doing it for her, having already moved on? In any case, she was aware that Shinji's Doki Doki fantasy story was unlikely to have a particularly happy ending. With a sigh, she turned the page to start part 4 of the book. At the next station, the train's conductor, Shinji, had stopped it indefinitely, and he and Asuka waited for another train that was traveling in the opposite direction. It came to light that Asuka was not alone in the world. There were other trains as well. Finally, a train traveling in the opposite direction arrived at the station on the opposite platform. The other train's conductor was an elderly gentleman with a sympathetic appearance who fit the description of a conductor. Shinji struck an agreement with the other conductor to switch trains, and the elderly man eventually agreed, appreciating the opportunity to make amends for past transgressions. Asuka had a strange feeling that she couldn't quite place as she and Shinji boarded the other train, but she ignored it since she was so happy to see Rei again. Shinji was obviously hurt by Asuka's excitement, even though Asuka was unaware of it. Asuka's anxiety increased when she saw signs at every station indicating that Rei had visited. Because of Naruto's emotive and expressive writing, the reader was forced to share Asuka's agonizing weight and longing for a loved one. But the agony of ultimately losing one with Shinji as well. With this section of the narrative, the book reverted to its poetic form and origins from the book's opening, when Asuka was by herself. But with every passing station, Shinji's physical strength diminished, even though Asuka was oblivious to it. Sakura became aware of it at that moment, and the pain was intense enough to cause her to cry even more. This train they were currently on had almost finished the journey, even though their original train had many years left in it. That explains why Shinji was so young and the other conductor so old. The train they were currently riding on was already en route to deliver its occupants to their ultimate resting place. Shinji had already promised to give up everything for Asuka from the beginning. Asuka and Shinji eventually arrived at the first, and the final one. Rei was waiting at the platform at the station. He was now moping in despair because he had already gone back to the first station and still hadn't located the priceless object he had been looking for. Shinji begged Asuka to come to him, grinning melancholy, telling her that she was the priceless object he had been looking for the entire time. Shinji refused to go with Asuka, stating that it was his responsibility as the conductor to see the train through to the end. Then Asuka protested that she and Rei could travel the rest of the train ride with him, but Shinji once more shook his head, telling her to board the next train that was going the other way. Asuka and Shinji said goodbye at that point, and Asuka and Rei had their emotional reunion. The book's final chapter explored Shinji's feelings and thoughts as he led the dilapidated train to its unavoidable demise. It was not some somber and melancholy essay about death and despair, but rather a reflection on life, love, and hope that gave the reader the impression that Shinji was content despite everything. When the novel came to an end and Shinji was closing his eyes for the last time, Sakura wept and laughed a little. Maybe I'll treat myself to some ramen tomorrow, Sakura said as he closed his eyes. Yes, that does sound good. Never stop hoping for a better day tomorrow, even in the absence of tomorrow. It's hot, Shikamaru said idly as they strolled through Sanagakure's marketplace. Well, we're in the desert. Why do you even insist on doing this mission if you knew it was going to be this hot? Gaara isn't even here and there are plenty of better paying missions. Naruto chose to ignore Shikamaru's questions and carry on whining instead of responding. Man. Shopping is so depressing. Naruto's list of grievances seemed to go on forever. That made Shikamaru raise an eyebrow, but he chose to set his suspicions aside for the time being. Rolling his eyes, Shikamaru asked, "Why?" "Because you're too poor to buy anything." Naruto complained, your deadpan sarcasm so appreciated, as he threw his jacket over his shoulder and unzipped it, revealing himself in his black mesh shirt with his green amulet necklace sparkling in the desert sun. Needless to say, many of Sanagakure's young ladies took notice of this. But Shikamaru noticed something more. A thick iron bangle handcuffed Naruto's right wrist, and a rusty chain hung loosely from it, unattached to anything. It appeared to have been sliced. "What's that?" asked Shikamaru. Naruto shrugged. "Oh, this. It's just a fashion accessory, makes me look cool, huh?" Shikamaru just shot him a cold stare. With a sigh, Naruto extended his right hand. Kachiyose. Zanpakuto. A short sword, or kodachi, materialized in a puff of smoke. It appeared old, with numerous chips in the blade. There was not even a crossguard to shield the hand. The hilt was fastened to the chain that encircled his wrist in handcuffs and was covered in frayed white bandages. It was cold enough for Shikamaru to sense without even having to touch it. A dead cold, not an icy one. "A new technique?" Naruto chuckled. "This way I don't have to waste money buying new equipment all the time," and canceled the summon, causing the chain around his wrist to become limp once more. Shikamaru was aware that the situation was not that simple. Maybe there was a negative aspect to the method that Naruto was reluctant to discuss. Or perhaps it was a very lethal weapon that he was only going to use against the Akatsuki. Or Sasuke. Or maybe Naruto just wanted to save some cash on equipment and it was that easy? Shikamaru was aware that, whatever it was, he would not be able to extract anything from Naruto for the time being. The more bizarre the situation got, the more he'd be too lazy to do it. His style was more observing from a distance and picking up hints. When Shikamaru finally found the tobacco shop he was searching for, he sighed and changed the topic. Gazing around the store while Shikamaru made his purchases, Naruto remarked, I didn't know that there were so many different kinds of cigarettes." With a bag in hand, Shikamaru waved at Naruto from the shop entrance, saying, "Oi, let's go. I'm done here." Naruto inquired, "What did you get?" They were strolling through the marketplace when Shikamaru said, "Here," reaching into his pocket to toss something to Naruto. "Keep it." Naruto just about caught it and gave it a curious glance before asking, "Huh? A lighter?" It was one of those flip-top metal ones that the cool kids in the movies always seem to have. Everything was dented, scratched, and bruised. As though it had accompanied Shikamaru and then Asuma through all of their exhausting battles. "What for?" "I thought about what you said last night, and I decided to quit smoking, for Ino's sake," Shikamaru said with a sigh. Quizzically, Naruto asked, "Then what the heck did you buy at the smoke shop back there?" Reaching into the bag he was holding, Shikamaru pulled out another lighter, but this one was more girlish and much fancier. It had hearts engraved on each side and was a sleek matte lavender color. "I'm giving this one to Ino. I'll only smoke if she lights it for me. Only when she really misses Asuma-sensei." Naruto sighed, "Man, that's really clever. I don't think I could ever think up of something romantic like that." Shikamaru felt for the first time in a long time a little satisfied with his own intelligence. He said, "Well, you never know." "Naruto?" As he became aware that the character was no longer by his side. "Naruto?" he asked as he turned to see Naruto focusing on a display at a jewelry store nearby. It was a stunning necklace made of silver lariat. Although lariat necklaces were uncommon, Naruto was drawn to them for that reason. The necklace's lariat portion resembled an open cherry blossom, and the anchor charm was a long, thin green stone that resembled Naruto's. And Shikamaru understood its importance right away. The green stone would fall if it weren't for the cherry blossom lariat. Furthermore, the cherry blossom lariat would have nothing to hold it down and would slip in the absence of the green stone. Naruto was needed by Sakura. Sakura was needed by Naruto. This was the moment when Shikamaru figured out why Naruto would accept a lowly C-rank mission to Wind Country. Sakura's birthday was approaching, and Suna was well known for her skill in crafting jewelry. Shikamaru had traveled this far to buy Ino a lighter for the same reason. Shikamaru inquired, "How much is this necklace?" 46,000 Ryu, grinned the store owner in response. "I'll take it," Naruto said with a smile. Sakura asked, startled by what she was hearing, "Wait. What?" Tsunade-sama and Keisuke-sama are meeting in River Country in order to extend the alliance treaty between the two villages, said Shizune. "I thought Tsunade-sama told you already that she was going to be gone for a few days." Even Naruto-kun knew. Sakura sighed. "So Keisuke-sama isn't even in Suna? Naruto must be so disappointed. Taking on a C-rank mission to Suna and not even being able to see Gaara. Wait. Naruto knew. Then why did he take on that mission? He hates going on anything lower than an A rank. I thought he was just using the mission as an excuse to go see Keisuke-sama." Shizune gave a shrug. Maybe he wanted to spend time with Nara. He is Konoha's liaison to Suna, so he's out of town a lot and Naruto-kun doesn't get to see him much. Well, that's true. And there's the Hyuga heiress also. Hinata. What about her? With a playful tone, Shizune said, "She's at Suna right now too, though on a different mission." Naruto-kun probably knew about that too. Although she didn't like to make fun of other people, she thought she would use Tsunade's absence for a few days as an excuse to let her hair down and enjoy herself. You know how guys can't resist big-breasted shy girls. And with Ino hot on Naruto's tail, Hinata will probably feel pressured to finally make a move too. He what? Sakura let out a cry. "I'm going to kill him, and Hinata too." Naruto adjusted his glasses and turned through the mission report. "Hey, Shikamaru, I won't be making the return trip back to Konoha with you," he said. "I have some other stuff to take care of." "Like what?" Shikamaru asked, brow raised. "Did the clients even authorize this? Heck, did Hokage-sama even authorize this?" "Well, maybe if you weren't so lazy and actually read the mission report," Naruto said, flicking the papers packet aside with a rolling of his eyes. "Well, I guess this is where we part ways, yeah." Shikamaru skimmed the mission report quickly, but there was nothing that allowed Naruto to leave in the middle of the task. Then it dawned on him. Naruto had not agreed to take on this C-rank mission solely to deliver Sakura's birthday gift. Sasuke was behind Naruto. Then the Doki Doki Fantasy ending flashed through his mind, making his blood turn icy. "You've been a great friend, Shikamaru. Give that necklace to Sakura-chan on her birthday for me." "Naruto!" exclaimed Shikamaru. However, Naruto had already left. The necklace that Naruto had purchased for Sakura was all that remained. "Ino." Jokingly, Ino asked Sakura, "What's up, forehead girl?" as Sakura joined her at the Ichiraku ramen stand. Before placing her order, Sakura glanced at the menu and asked, "Since when did you eat ramen?" With a questioning expression. "I'll have a small miso ramen." Coming right up. Tucci laughed, relieved that it appeared Naruto was at last receiving the respect he deserved from Konoha's female populace. With pride, Ino said, "Hey, I grow these veggies," while pointing to her delectable bowl of vegetarian ramen. "Naruto asked me to tend to his vegetable garden when he's gone." Sakura briefly sensed a sense of dread encroaching upon her, as if it would suffocate her. She double-checked, saying, "Oh, you mean whenever he's out of town, right?" "Yes, that's what I meant," Ino muttered under his breath. "I guess the ending for his book is kinda getting to me too." Sakura hung her head in shame and guilt, asking solemnly, "You don't think he'd really?" Since she had read his book, she realized that, although she had honestly believed she had convinced him that they were meant to reunite, she had no idea what he was thinking. With a melancholic smile, Ino answered, "I'd say he would if he had the chance. But don't worry, he's with Shikamaru. Nothing bad can happen." Sakura reluctantly gave a nod. In addition to having one of the best records available, Shikamaru was able to maintain composure in the face of Naruto's recklessness. "I guess you're right. This is one miso ramen for you," Tucci said merrily as he held the bowl in front of Sakura, who gave a grateful nod. "Hey, Ino?" "Yeah? Sorry?" After blinking, Ino set down her chopsticks for a brief period of time. "What for?" "For taking Naruto away from you," Sakura said with a mischievous smirk. "Even you know that you have no chance against me when it comes to Naruto, right?" "Oh, no, you didn't?" Ino playfully pushed Sakura away. gasping in mock horror. Naruto will definitely fall for my charms. You can have Sasuke-kun as a consolation prize once Naruto brings him back. The girls felt their bond was stronger than ever as they laughed together, which was much needed. It was peculiar that a boy had previously caused their separation, but now he was the one bringing them back together. Ino softly smiled and asked, "So does that mean you finally decided?" Sakura gave a shy nod, her cheeks slightly flushed. "Yeah. I want to give him a chance. I don't want things to turn out like it did in his book," she said with a smile. Asuka and Rei lived together happily ever after, never even realizing that Shinji had paid the price for their happiness with his life. "I don't want that. That's too sad." "That's great, Sakura," Ino said with a smile, wrapping a toasty arm around her friend with pink hair. "You and Naruto would make a cute couple." Sakura exclaimed, laughing, pilfering Naruto's signature punchline, "Believe it. Uzumaki Naruto. Show yourself." As he descended gradually from the cover of the trees to the ground, Naruto indulged in a little smile. "Uchiha Itachi. Finally found you." Itachi said stoically, "And here I thought that it was I that was seeking you," shocked that the brazen Kyuubi vessel had already agreed to make eye contact with his Sharingan. Naruto smiled and removed his glasses, putting them safely in their case in one of his traveler's cloak's pockets. "Nope, I'm the one hunting you now," he said. "If I bring you back to Konoha, and beat you up a little so it's easy for Sasuke to kill you, I'm sure Sasuke will come running." "Your confidence in your own abilities is quite astounding," Itachi said. "Especially for someone who keeps getting trapped in my illusions." Naruto grinned. Holding out his right hand, Naruto called forth the enigmatic ancient kodachi that was bound to his wrist, saying, "That won't work anymore. No illusion can fool the eyes of the Shinigami. Kachiyose. Zanpakuto. This is the knife of the Shinigami. The same knife that sealed away Orochimaru's arms. With this knife, I'll take from you those eyes that you prize so much." Sakura, stop fidgeting. As they anxiously awaited the caravan that was meant to return from Suna that day at the Konoha West Gate, Sakura cried, "I can't help it." Ino exclaimed, tiptoeing to get a better look outside, "There they come." "Where?" Ino laughed, "You're so easy to tease." Sakura crossed her arms over her chest and pouted, "You're mean." Ino exclaimed, "Sakura, look, it's really them," with excitement. "I refuse to be fooled by it," Sakura scowled. Grabbing her by the shoulders, Ino yanked her toward the main road, saying, "Damn it, look." Indeed, a small caravan could be seen gradually returning to Konoha in the distance. "Hey, Shikamaru. Welcome back," Ino exclaimed with excitement, giving her teammate with pineapple hair a vigorous wave as she was clearly leading the caravan. Sakura questioned, "Naruto? Where's Naruto?" Shikamaru sighed deeply, unsure of how to break the news to her friend. Despite his best efforts, he was unable to locate Naruto, who had vanished from sight. There had been no reports of any sightings of Naruto, Sasuke, or the Akatsuki near Suna, not even by Temari or Kankuro. With each passing second, Sakura's voice grows dimmer. "Naruto. Where is he?" Ino murmured, "Shikamaru?" as she suddenly had a bad feeling. Sakura's legs gave way and she fell to her knees as all Shikamaru could do was shake his head and shrug his shoulders. Numerous possibilities flashed through her mind, but they were all directed towards Sasuke and Naruto's readiness to give his life. Sakura cried, clenching her heart as each pulse became harder and harder, "No, Naruto. Why?" "Sakura-chan." With her eyes wide with desperation, she leapt up and saw him with his head cocked slightly to the side, looking concerned and perplexed. "Naruto," she exclaimed as she threw herself at him, sobbing into his chest and encircling him tightly to ensure that he would never be able to separate from her. "You idiot." Naruto whispered, "And here I thought it was Sasuke's job to make you cry, not mine," as he lowered everything he had been carrying and gently encircled her in his powerful arms. His cloak completely muffled her voice as she sobbed, "Do you know how much I've been crying lately because of you, idiot?" He smiled softly and said, "Sorry, but, Sakura, look who I brought back." Sakura shook her head, refusing to let go of him, keeping her face buried in his chest. "I don't care." With a playful grin and a playful shove to put her at arm's length, Naruto said, "But, Sakura-chan. Look." It's Uchiha Itachi. Before, Sakura had failed to notice that Naruto had been dragging Orochimaru, Kabuto and 6 members of Akatsuki down the road by a single, long leash, and now they were at his feet, all beaten and dusty. But how? When Shikamaru saw that Naruto was completely unharmed, he arched an eyebrow. "You're not even hurt." With a smug smile, Naruto said, "Hey, I am the most powerful ninja in the world after all." Ino gave him a warm embrace and exclaimed, "All right, way to go, Naruto," with pride. Thanks, Ino," Naruto smiled, and, "Whoa, you actually changed your hairstyle." Ino smirked mischievously and pretended to be a little model for him. "How do you like it?" Naruto chuckled, "Totally puts all my perverted ninjutsu to shame." "Hey," Ino sulked and playful nudged him. "And now that Itachi is here, Sasuke-kun will return on his own." Sakura grinned broadly as she realized what Naruto had in store. Shikamaru scowled. Itachi was now blindfolded to conceal his lifeless, hollow eyes, and his arms and legs also appeared to be crippled. But will Sasuke really be satisfied killing Itachi when he's in this state? Sasuke never really wanted to prove to Itachi that he was stronger. All he wanted was to kill him. "Revenge, pure and simple," Naruto murmured. "This way, he gets what he wants without much trouble, and here he comes." Just then, Itachi's body fell to the ground with a dead thud and a geyser of blood shot skyward. Then, beneath Konoha's gates, Sasuke's stoic form materialized in a swirl of leaves, and an Enbu squad quickly moved in to arrest him. Sasuke, surprisingly, offered no resistance. With a smile, Naruto gave Sakura a quick shove in the side and nodded in the direction of their long-lost teammate. "Go on." Sakura grinned and put both of her hands on his wrist. "Let's go together." Then, reluctantly, Naruto shook his head. I still need to report to the old hag." "That can wait," Sakura exclaimed with joy. Her smile vanished as she suddenly realized that something wasn't quite right. "Naruto, what's wrong?" "There's nothing wrong," he said, shaking his head and grinning broadly at her. "I just need some time before facing him, I guess." Sakura scowled as she wrapped her arms around his neck to keep his gaze fixed on her. "Don't lie to me, Naruto. What's wrong?" "Naruto won't be alive for much longer." With a startled expression, Sakura and Ino turned to face Shikamaru, who was wearing a serious expression. Shikamaru, what are you talking about?" Sakura questioned, fear visibly controlling her voice. "Naruto, is this true?" Even though her arms were still around him, she moved to get a closer look and feel his warmth. Naruto could feel every vein in her body ice over, just by averting her gaze. It was like reading his book Doki Doki Fantasy again. "The Shinigami's soul-harvesting sword," Shikamaru muttered. He had previously seen it from Naruto at the Suna marketplace. Shikamaru had conducted the research, and he had dubbed it a Zanpakuto. Naruto traded half of his lifespan for that sword. And the Shinigami's eyes. He probably traded half of what was left for those two in order to track down Itachi and use it as a countermeasure to the Sharingan. That's why he started wearing glasses all of a sudden. To filter out the effects of the Shinigami's eyes when he didn't need them. So in total, Naruto traded 3/4 of his lifespan, Ino exclaimed, her vision becoming clouded by tears. "It's likely that he has a few years left at most," Shikamaru said with a nod. With an attempt to sound as upbeat as possible, Naruto stated, 5 years to be exact. "So yeah, there you have it. Sokka-chan? I guess I'll say goodbye to everyone and be on my way since my work is done here." He sighed, understanding that she would not let go of him. "Why?" she pleaded, her eyes full of tears. "Why did you do this?" "Sakura-chan," she cried out, "did you really think that this would make me happy? I never wanted you to go after Sasuke-kun if it meant coming back with 2 Chidori holes through your chest. I never wanted you to go after Sasuke-kun if it meant dying like this either." Naruto whispered, "I wanted Sasuke to find some closure too. I wanted to end his nightmare as quickly as possible. And it was the only way to acquire power faster than the Akatsuki could acquire it. This way, no one has to die but me. Besides, I wanted to finish what my old man started." But," Sakura exclaimed, going completely insane and unable to speak. She finally gave up and just grabbed him once more, crying into his chest. Claiming to be happy, Naruto laughed softly and comfortingly ran his fingers through Sakura's smooth pink hair. Sakura-chan. When you're hugging me like this, I feel like I've never felt any pain or loneliness ever in my entire life, he said. Help that bastard Sasuke, okay. Right now, he's all kinds of messed up. But with this hug. You can heal him with this hug, your love, okay? Sakura gave a headshake. With her face buried in his chest, she said angrily, I just want to hug you. My love is only for you. Sakura-chan, you can't mean that, Naruto said with a sorrowful smile. Hearing those words from her made him deliriously happy, but he never intended for things to get to this point. I'm going to die in a few years. Remember? Sasuke has plenty of years ahead of him, plenty of years that you can spend with him. She sobbed, I'd rather have a few years with you. Naruto finally began to lose his cheerfulness and asked, why are you being like this all of a sudden? You have Sasuke right there. You've been waiting for him your whole life. Be happy, Sakura-chan. Sakura shot back, why are you being like this all of a sudden? You always wanted to go out on a date with me. Now's your chance. Take it, please. Naruto shook his head and said, you know I can't do that. She said, I love you, Naruto, so what's the problem? With all the ferocity she could muster, but her tears soon put out any spark she had. She bit her lip and pressed her forehead to his chest, her fists clenched around his cloak. I'm sorry. I just realized it so late. It was your book that made me realize that I love you. It made me realize that you really would go out and do something so incredibly stupid just because you love me. And you actually did it. You actually went out and killed yourself for me. Idiot. You're an idiot, you know that? You constantly remind me, he remarked, chuckling slightly. She firmly repeated, I love you, Naruto, and raised her head to meet his gaze. Even if you only have 5 seconds left, I'd still love you. He trailed off with a bittersweet smile, wiping the tears from Sakura-chan's eyes with his rough fingers. I love you too, Sakura-chan, but... She urged, stop being so dumb. 5 years is plenty of time. We can make a lot of memories in 5 years. Naruto grimly asked, but what about afterwards? It'll be painful for you, and even knowing that, you'd still want to be with me? Why would you want to suffer like that? Sakura responded with the happiest smile he had ever seen on her lips, because. Just because, which instantly dispelled any fear he had for the future, their future. Naruto couldn't resist breaking into a silly smile. Just because? That's it? Sakura pouted as she lifted her lips to his, snatching the first kiss she had been dying to have. Hey, it worked, didn't it? She said. They were her paradise, even though his lips were chapped and dry from travel. Shikamaru questioned hesitantly, noticing that Ino was once again on the verge of tears. Ino, you gonna be okay? With a burst of emotion, Ino threw her arms around her teammate and exclaimed, Shikamaru, I'm so happy for her. With a sigh, Shikamaru rolled his eyes. Yeah, whatever. Let's leave the lover birds alone. A compilation. Hey, Mom, what was Dad like? Sakura trailed her teenage daughter's gaze upward, seeing that the Hokage monument now had 7 faces. Even though it was meant to be a somber memorial for the Hokage of the past, the final 2 faces, the 6th and 7th Hokage, were obviously scowling at one another, creating a somewhat humorous spectacle. Sakura laughed and said, well, he was quite annoying. He was loud, overconfident, obnoxious, thick-headed, stubborn, perverted, and temperamental. He was always giving me such a headache. Almost to the point that sometimes I forgot why I even married someone like him. 13-year-old Uzumaki Tsukasa, Sakura's daughter, giggled a little as she tried to recall her father's personality. Then why did you marry him? Sakura embraced her daughter from behind with a smile on her face. Because. There was one thing he had over everyone else. Surprised, Tsukasa said. One thing? He was the person that loved me more than anyone else in the entire world. No one could beat that.